So yes, I'm the anti-Ed. I'm the very opposite of Ed. Everything that you've just seen, I'm now going to try and persuade you don't need to do any of that. But I'm going to be wrong, because he's operating at an entirely different level to me. My background, the credibility thing, so I spent about 15 years managing application services in businesses, from very small businesses, a little shop fitter in Whitstable many years ago, up to the last full-time job I had. I was European Director of Applications for Fortune 500 and everything in between. And the things that I'm passionate about are functionality, productivity, automation, process, the music of Pink Floyd, and pizza. But I am fundamentally, I'm a commercial sellout. I'm the guy that everyone at the university says they're not going to become. Because I learned to program and then I went, yeah, but those guys are paid more than that. So off I went into management. So what I'm going to try and do today is explain why this isn't working. Oh, it's the same again because I haven't turned it on. I'm an IT professional, just to be clear. Look, there you go. That's who I work for. Mark here is from ADM. He's my direct competitor and has not yet hit me, so that's good. Yes, it's provide infrastructure management services, application management services, etc., and strategic guidance and what have you to businesses in Kent, Sussex, and London. So there you go. I've done the bit that persuaded my boss to let me leave early today. What I'd like to talk about is cloud automation with low-code tools. Who in here would describe themselves as a coder or software developer? Not as many as I thought. That's good. Who would like to be a coder or software developer but isn't at the moment? No? Who used to be a coder and software developer and is glad they're not anymore? Yeah, quite a lot of people. So what I'd like to do is persuade you, and this is, it is a commercial pitch, right? One of the things that I think sometimes gets lost in IT is the fact that we're doing this for a reason, and the reason is fundamentally business. We can have an interesting discussion afterwards about whether capitalism was a good idea. Fundamentally, at the moment, that's the system we've got, right? So we do these things for business. We do that either in the private sector because we want to make money for ourselves or our shareholders, who, if they're very nice, will give some of it to us. In the public sector, we're doing it for the benefit of society and with some accountability for cost. Just in case there's anyone from the NHS, I'll just remind you, accountability for cost to the taxpayer. And of course, I'm also a trustee of 2 charities, and in the charitable sector, you want to get as much of your service that you're trying to provide for the lowest possible cost point. Although again, there are some of those, I don't know if anyone here from Oxfam, but anyway. Low-code tools does everybody know what I mean by low-code tools? A few nods, a few shakes of heads. That's good. That means the next 20 minutes are not a waste of my time. So, what I'm going to try and persuade you to do is to stop coding the stuff that already exists. If you go to Oxford, just outside Oxford, there's a mini factory. And when they're assembling their minis, they put wheels on. And the wheels look much the same as everybody else's wheels. This is a resolved technology. It has been invented, it is thoroughly done. There are many such things. And I'm trying to direct you towards some of those in the software world. We don't necessarily mean that there isn't a lot of coding involved, unfortunately. Low code is a slight misnomer. That it's actually, Glenn and I were just talking about Rust as being quite a low-level code. .NET is maybe 3rd level. These are, you can almost sort of think of them as like, I'm just inventing words now, but like a 6th level programming language right up at the very top. There is a live demo coming, by the way, or as I like to call it, opportunity for humiliating public failure. But we don't necessarily mean not much coding. what we're talking about is pre-configured modular software with very limited functionality. I've just done that thing that I said I wasn't going to do and read out what's on the slide. These are bits of stuff that are designed to do a specific function. Call them, it does the thing, and then it stops. And it's there, and it's pre-built. It's like Lego. That's a good but overused analogy. There are many of them on the market. I picked out 5 of the most popular. Zapier is one that most people have heard of. This used to be called Microsoft Flow. It's now called Microsoft Power Automate, because it wouldn't be a quarter if Microsoft didn't rebrand something. OutSystems is quite... it's niche. It's very much in the kind of big corporate world. The entry-level license for OutSystems is $16,000 a year. So that's I've had the opportunity to play with that. I didn't much like it, but this is a thing called Integromat. That's what you're going to see on the demo. I like this one. The entry level for this is free, and the first layer of supportable services are $9 a month, which seems a bit more sensible. And that is a thing called Tray.io, about which I know that is the logo for Tray.io. What I'd like to do is persuade you that you don't need to be rewriting things that have already been written. There are lots of tools out there that all businesses use, like finance tools and HR tools and ERP systems and all this stuff, right? And most of those now have market leaders in the cloud. So Xero for accounting, for example, Salesforce, or Dynamics for CRM type activity, etc., etc. In every horizontal, there is a market leader. So I'm going to try and persuade you don't need to write as much code. And you're going to say, but I'm a coder. I want to write code. That's what I want to do. And I get that. I understand that. What this is about is not wasting your time, and hence your customers' money, or your employer's money, or your charitable sector service recipients' value and time, doing things that already exist, doing things that have already been created and are out there to be used now. Yeah, but I'm really a coder. So it's very easy for me to talk about profit margin, because, as I said, I am a corporate shill. So from your perspective, particularly the freelancers, Alex, it's a way to very quickly, repeatably and cheaply bolt new skills onto your toolbox without really having to spend hours and hours and hours. The last time I wrote code in a serious way, the last time I wrote anything that I had to compile that then hit production, I think it was 2007, might have been 2008. This year, I did an invoiceable service using nothing but this, stringing together a whole contact gathering, proposal generation, invoicing cycle, using nothing but low code to bring together platforms that were already in existence. So it can quickly add to your skill set. Excuse me. I'm going to get another can of Coke, that's what I'm going to do. I'd forgotten I had the hat on. It just wobbled on my head. Right, so there you go. So you're a coder, that's fine. Write the stuff that you need to write. Question to you, are you writing a finance package? Is anybody here has got a customer that they're writing a finance or billing package for? Good, because the next slide is that. These things already exist. I have met a couple of people on network and say, oh yeah, no, I'm writing a whole financial management system for my customer. You go, Jesus Christ, why would you do that? These things already exist. Xero. You've got to work out how to do making tax digital, and you've got to work out all the regulations about VAT application, blah, 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 all that stuff. Don't bother. There are people who've done it that are cheaper, better and faster than you can do. So, let's assume you're not doing that, because you seem to be all sensible, talented, thoughtful and good-looking people. So, at the moment, without your low-code platforms, here's your thing. whatever your thing might be. You need to talk to finance, because when your thing's done the thing that it does, you need to bill for the thing that you do. And that means at the moment that you've got to work out, let's assume your customer's using Xero, or QuickBooks, or whatever. Now you've got to go spend a week reading the documentation for the Xero API to work out how to push that through. But then they want HR, nor CRM, and it all gets very tedious very quickly. And there's a vast amount of knowledge that you have to acquire quite quickly, because customers are not very patient. That's what I was trying to say. So, what your what your low-code platform will enable you to do, and you can string them together as well, of course. You don't have to stick to one platform. You put your thing here, you send a bunch of commands into that. That will worry about how to talk to the other side. There's a real advantage is when your customer comes along and says, hey, thanks Alex, that's great, you've done that thing. Invoices have been coming out perfectly, but I've decided I really don't like Xero, I'm going to go to QuickBooks, so can you redevelop it with a whole new API interface for that? Yes, alright. And yes, that will generate you whatever, a week of chargeable time, which is lovely, but it's not really the best value, it's not the best use of your time, and it's not the best use of your customers' money. I can't remember why that goes red. There's probably a reason when I did it. Yes, this side has nothing on it because that's the end. So what I'd like to do is crave your indulgence, work out how to stop this, that, like that. And I'm going to have a go at a live product demo. So, which side is there? Oh, they're duplicated. That's even better. So, this is Integromat. This is a very, very basic one that I've done. So, all of them will offer a trigger. You have to have a trigger. You have to tell it, do a thing. Like any process. Processes will always have three things: a trigger, an event, and a trigger, an action, and an output. Right? So you have to say, do a thing, and then it says, okay, and it goes off, does the thing. You'll notice it doesn't answer. This is a very, very simple one. It just says, okay, there's the thing. So the configuration for that is dead simple. You basically say to it, give me a webhook, and it gives you an address which you can copy, and you see there, I'm not going to do this, but that redetermined data structure. So I can go to anything. I've got Postman running on here. You see, I claimed not to be technical at the start, but I've got Postman, so I must be very technical. You can just fire a webhook into it, from which it will generate its own data structure based on the XML stream that it gets on that webhook. And then on this side, so I've created a demo Xero account for the purposes of this evening. And you can see here, so the stuff that I've fired in, it's picked up that data structure and it then offers them as not quite drag and drop, but selectable values out of that. So you can go, boom, there you go. Put that there. When you get a currency in, put it in that box. Go. This is, of course, talking through the Java API that I have absolutely no idea or interest in how it works, because I trust that they will do that. So if I now go to here, simple invoice request, and I press send, come back here, there you go, refresh the run list, yes! So, and then it actually tells me every instance, every time it runs, it generates its own audit log, right? So I can see this is what was sent in, and then I can see here, this was what was then sent on to Xero, and Xero replied with an invoice ID. How am I doing for time?
Oh,
I'm a bit of a waffler, so. So it replies with an invoice ID, which is great, but you know, it's limited, so you can do more stuff. See, look, Code Harbor's got its own folder. You see that? So this one here, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, but on the end, pass back the invoice ID. So where on this one, where I ran this a second ago, well, that's annoying, isn't it? Right. All I get back is accepted. Okay, I've done it. What have I done? I've done it. If you quickly build in an extra module, that took me, I would say, 20 seconds to just add in, because it offers there, you can see, if I click in there, everything that has been used, every variable that has been populated up to that point gets offered back. Kind of drag and drop situation. So then I can pass back the invoice ID, which you might have noticed is because of a peculiarity of 0, it sends back the global unique ID from the database, not the invoice number. That's okay, because you can quickly add a module here if I wanted. Add a module. I love that this is working, it's brilliant. So if I just do a quick search for invoice, get an invoice, which one do I want? I want the one that's just been returned out of that one. And then from here, I can actually find wherever it is, the invoice number. I'll pass the invoice number back rather than the slightly useless globally unique ID. I'm not going to run that one because I think it's fairly straightforward. The question, there's a security man in the room. And I can see, if you're not thinking it, I'd be astonished. But yeah, but anyone could send any old crap at that, which is true. End of talk. No. I've had a few occasions to think about this. Oh no, I did want to leave. Sorry about that. And this is what I have come up with. So you can see these you can build these out and build these out. They can get bigger and bigger and bigger. I would suggest if you can do more than one or two things, probably draw it out on a piece of paper first, or get Visio or whatever your process UML type thing is of choice. What this does, so the webhook comes in and he goes and looks, that's my little local data store. You see here, there's a data stores function, so this can actually store its own data set. There's a data store in there that has got a source. So from this application, this passcode. I know that's not good enough, Glenn, coming to it. Bit of SHA 256 encryption. Again, I know. You'll see where it gets better. So it comes along, so I pass in, if I show you, on here, on this one. So I'm going to pass in this, D7, actually I'm not, I'm going to pass in that. That's going to, sorry, wrong screen. That's going to go and look up and get it's just going to pass a source and a passcode. It's going to go and get what it thinks is the passcode for that source out of the data set, encrypt that into SHA 256, SHA-256, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, SHA-256, and then it's going to compare what it's received with what it's just encrypted. If it didn't match, it's going to go down there and say, well, bums to you, essentially. If it does match, it's going to come up here. This is a request to an API. I'm looking forward to at the end of the meeting where Glenn's going to tell me all the reasons why this isn't good enough. But this makes a request to an API to generate a 128 character random string. So it's not here that's generating that string, it's a third-party service. And it updates this data set with that new string and then passes that string back. So every time it is called, the password is changed. And what is sent in here is encrypted. What is sent back here is unencrypted. That's no good to you. Oh, it's mine. Sorry, I thought that was your fault. Yeah. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. what's being passed back is not the thing you need to send in next time round. Come on, there you go, thank you. Now, and for a very brief demonstration, so the last time I ran this, I'll say this now, I'm not at all confident this is going to work because I've put the laptop to sleep and all sorts of stuff. Right, but that was the response last time, so I now need to take this away to my SHA256 generator, that one, and paste that in there. That will generate a lovely string, which I'm going to copy. Obviously, you would be doing this in code inside your lovely application that you've built. I wouldn't suggest building this exact process. And we're going to come here, we're going to replace that with that. We're going to send, and hopefully it's going to send back another long string. Yes! So it's done exactly that. So this new string will match the data store here, so that next time we come around, so you can do all of that stuff. So basically, every time you run, it's a different password, encrypted, and what have you. That is the best solution I've come up with so far. I'm sure Glenn will have opinions about why it doesn't quite work. But you get the idea. Broadly, I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, I think. Just have a quick look here. Simple invoice request, pass back, and then that's the whole invoice request. We pass back an authentication. I won't bore you with all of that. So what I'm trying to persuade you to do here is to think, if I'm going to have to connect to external systems, there are platforms out there that will help me do that much quicker, much faster, and at a much lower skill point, which very quickly adds those skills into your portfolio, which makes you more productive, more faster to market, more valuable to your customers, and more profitable. And we live in a capitalist system, so that's a good thing. That's it.